It's 6 o'clock. Let's get started. Okay. So it's 6 o'clock and welcome to the Beaver Network. I have not updated my background yet, but we have moved out of the Beaver politics realm into Beaver Network. And I am Treaty 6 Birder and I host Indigenous Matters every Monday evening. And I welcome anybody who wants to come up and talk with us about anything related to Indigenous issues, Indigenous rights, Indigenous matters relating to this upcoming election. We have a lot to talk about with that. The 7 sacred teachings: honesty, respect, wisdom, love, humility, courage, and truth guide us through our conversations so that we can show respect for one another, listen to hear and understand each other, listen with an open mind and an open heart, speak with kindness and caring and respect for one another. Here I like to make sure that everybody has a chance to say and add to the conversation. So we like to take our turn speaking. We don't speak over each other. And we'll wait for that pause at the end of everybody's when they're up speaking before we start talking next. So tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about there's some controversy going on in our world about the photo that's going around with Pierre Poilievre and some of our Treaty 6 chiefs here in Alberta. So I have a little bit of intel about that. I can't say too much because I wasn't given complete approval to say everything. But what I do know and what I can share is that was a very last minute meeting. And many of the chiefs around that table did not show up as Pierre Poilievre supporters. They showed up because it was an opportunity to ask him some questions, to challenge him on his policy and the statements, but it was turned around and now looks like it was all these chiefs supporting Mr. Poilievre, which was not the outcome that some of the attendees believed was going to happen. So we just got to be always mindful when we see these photo ops and things like that in the news and ask ourselves that. Did everybody there know that this was going to be the outcome? You know, what was the intent of everyone to be there? Like, so, because not everybody goes to these things just because they're gung-ho supporters. I totally understand. And if I were a chief and invited to that, I would have gone too, so that I could question him also. But I've seen all this upheaval and people challenging them and questioning them. Like, I will admit Billy Morin is definitely one we know is in the Poilievre camp because he is running under the Conservative Party of Canada umbrella. So welcome, the Real Native. Nice to see you.
Hello.
Sorry I couldn't join you the other day. Oh, it's just been crazy. Hopefully I'll have some downtime and I can jump in on one of your lives too, because you always have some really good conversations going on.
Well, I mean, I've got Schmarcy helping me all the time, you know.
Yeah.
She's a right-hand person. I can't do those lives without her, you know.
Well, I can't do these without you guys, so
Oh,
I
you're
like to
too
return
much.
the favor, right? So, but my work life is crazy. But
Yes. Yeah.
after May, I always try to slow down in the summer months. So hopefully I'll be able to focus a little more, but I still have a couple more trips ahead of me and then it'll be all yours again. So, one thing I noticed that came up in this whole little bit of controversy around that photo with Poilievre and the chiefs is I saw some talking points about internalized racism and internalized hatred. And I know this concept, and I remember, oh gosh, you know, I first heard it put into words for me. Sylvia McAdam, the lovely, amazing Sylvia McAdam that started the Idle No More movement. She came to a First Nation that I was working for and was talking to us as a group about, you know, the movement, her experiences and things like this. And she spoke about internalized shame, she called it.
Right.
And the poor lady, right? Like, as she was telling this story, I'm sitting right in the front row, right in front of her, just crying, just ugly crying. I'm sure I saw her looking at me like, oh, is this lady okay or what?
Right.
But
Yeah.
because I realized I've seen it. I've seen it in family members of my own, probably in my own behaviors at time as well. But I'm going to read to you all the official definition. And this comes out of a Psychology Today publication. So, internalized racism refers to the tendency of individuals from historically oppressed ethnic groups to invalidate, demean, and suppress their own identity and heritage. It is a form of internalized oppression where the oppressed internalize the negative stereotypes and beliefs imposed by the dominant group, leading to a perception of their subordinate status as deserved. This phenomenon has systemic implications affecting the self worth and human rights of marginalized individuals and communities. And for me personally, I remember my Koka, my grandmother. She struggled with this, I would say, and really probably tried to impose it upon me in some ways. Because the term Nietzsche, I'm sure you know a real native, right?
Yes.
And I understand Nietzsche to mean like cousins, friends, right?
Yeah.
It's
So
yeah.
when she taught me, she taught it to me like it was derogatory. Like we'd see
Oh.
people on the streets in Calgary or whatever, and she'd say, "Look at those nichies," but it made it like it was bad. So I always kind of thought it was a bad word for our people until I started working with our people. Then I was like, "Wait a minute, that's
Yeah.
not a bad word."
No, that's not. It means like fellow native, my friend, you know. But when we say, correct me if I'm wrong, my Cree's a little rusty. When we see another Cree over there, we say, look at those nihil, you know,
Those what?
nihil. That's how you say
Nihil,
Cree. That's how you say Cree in
Nihao?
our language.
nihil, yeah, the people.
Nihao.
I'll put it in the
Nihao.
And
comments.
it's
I'll put it in the comments.
the suffix is four. Nehia, we're the people of four. So the four seasons, the four directions,
The
the four
Nihao, yeah.
voices, right? So payak is one. Niso, nisto, neyo, neyo, nehio is the people of
I
four.
was,
That's the
Nihao.
teaching I
I
was
was
given, anyways.
The teaching I was given is that it means the people of the land or people of the earth, because that's where we come from. Is Mother Earth? She gave birth to us, and
Right.
the Cree story was that she gave birth to us, and then the Creator said, "You've now got to turn around and take care of your mother, Mother Earth. You're in charge.
Right.
You're in charge of her care." Um,
I
that's the legend of how we came to be stewards of the land.
I heard some really cool stories last week while I was in Mi'kmaq territory, and how like because they're in the east and they get to see the sun first, and they got to
Yeah.
meet the newcomers first. But anyways, back to this internalized racism. Now, would you agree? Do you think that our friend Billy Morin, like this is and that why this come I bring this up is because I did see people commenting on this. But I
Mhm.
also heard from another person who's a mutual of mine, and I tend to agree with her, is that nobody should be diagnosing anybody else, right? So we
Nope.
can't diagnose people with any type of symptom that comes from this genocide that we've all survived.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an interesting concept, right? And I have seen it, and I've seen it especially in my father's generation. So he was born in the 40s. Also, because he never grew up on reserve, and he had the half breed label, right, to start out,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
labeled Métis afterwards. But I see it because you've heard me speak before about how I feel like my father was trying to protect me from my indigeneity.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
like, go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I have that same internalized hatred for our people because I wasn't given that opportunity to know why we have the problems we have, right? why we have the addiction we have, why we have the biases that we have. And I was that person. I think it's I think it is internalized racism with Billy Morin, but I also think it's shame because he wants the money for his people, but he doesn't want to feel like he's being a person who's taking a handout in Polyev's eyes. He wants to kind of just slither in under um the blanket of white supremacy to
Mhm.
appease to the oppressors because he doesn't want to be one of those people that are looked at like, oh, you're taking handouts from because of X, Y, and Z, right? So I think it has to do a lot with how Polyev and the white counterparts of our country have treated us over the years, and I can't fault him, but I feel sad for him because every time I look at pictures of him with Polyev, he's got such sad eyes.
I have the dubious distinction of knowing Billy Moore personally. Um, he's he thinks that the way forward for the indigenous people is to quit worrying about the land so much, and if we want to worry about the land and that, we should go back to living in the Stone Age and teepees and stuff. Um,
Wow.
And that's really sad.
yeah,
That feel, okay, now
that's
I
that.
really want to diagnose him with
Yeah,
internalized.
yeah.
And
But
I
that's unfortunately, Polyev.
Danielle Smith.
Conservatives have given a lot to Billy's reserve,
ooh,
and
I know.
so they kind of feel that they owe this to the conservatives. Hey, they wouldn't
Right.
have all the stuff they have if
Hi,
it wasn't
Zibby.
for the conservatives.
Yeah.
But they don't realize the trade-off. I mean, and they don't have to worry about it really, because they're in such an urban area that they don't have to worry about the land or anything.
But you know what? And I think but that's sad. And
It
I've
is.
seen the same thing, and I don't want to paint anybody with a brush or anything, but
Mhm,
I have witnessed the same thing in other nations that are closer to
mhm.
urban centers. So we have Sutena, we
Yeah.
have Enoch, Musquecheese,
Mhm.
Hmm.
Siksika, right? And these are also nations that are surrounded by agriculture.
Yeah.
And so they have the land has been taken from them sooner than like a Treaty 8 nation, say, right? Where they still have
Right.
some bush and
Yes,
access to some crown lands.
yes,
Oh,
sparkle and shine. Tom is hello.
hello,
Mhm.
yeah, Tanse. Tanse means hello. Dansik, yeah, is a hello to you kind of thing. And
Tansigia means hello, how are you?
hello, how are you? Yes, thank
Yes.
you. And
Um,
then the proper
those,
thing back, if real native says Tansikya to me, I say Minando Kiamaga, which means I'm
yeah,
good and how are you?
yeah, I'm good, and you?
Yeah.
Or
See, I will paint a person with brush with internalized racism because it's not a medical diagnosis.
So you're a little bit
you're muffled.
Is that better?
muffled. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so you can paint someone with internalized racism because it's not a psychological development. It's not like a on the DSM-5, right? So you
Mhm.
can go ahead and paint him because I am. I know what internalized racism is, and I've seen it, and I've been there. So I'm going to paint
Yeah,
him like that because he is kissing the ring, the old
He's
saying that
kissing the
he is
ring.
kissing the ring of the
yeah,
oppressor and not realizing
Mhm.
that he's single-handedly handing over his land
Yeah.
to a man that doesn't give a damn about him. And that's a real problem.
I agree.
Not everybody agrees with him in Enoch either.
No, I
Mhm.
know, but I'm just saying he is
Mhm.
single-handedly, as a chief, handing over.
Former
It's like
chief.
He's a
the
former
lands.
chief.
Yeah.
Okay, former chief, but
Hmm.
it's the if you look at it this way, um, it's the lands handing over their people
Thank you.
for a. It's like a mama cow handing over their baby cow to the farmer to take them away to go to the house, right?
Yeah.
That's what he's
Mhm.
doing essentially.
You hope that
So,
you hope your baby cow comes back the way you.
Some of
right.
But
some
and
of
you
the some of I've dealt with some of the people like Billy. They have this mindset where they're thinking that the treaties are going to be gone in 10 years, so they're trying to get a jump on, moving away from the treaties
right.
because they think that they're doomed anyway. I've heard one lady say that 20 years ago,
Wow.
that the treaties are going to be gone in 10 years anyway, so why are we hanging on to them? And I said,
Um,
they'll be gone if we have people like you running the show.
that's
Um,
really sad.
mm,
There's
but
also, there's
7 years
also,
later, here we are. They're
And
still
yeah,
attacked.
you know what bothers me, and then we'll let Zibby join in here but I went to, remember, I think I'd mentioned before in another live, I had gone to that Mike Lake. He's my MP, so
yes.
he's a conservative, and I went to one of his roundtables. And at the end of the night, we were just the last little bit of a round discussion. He actually looked at me and said, "Oh, by the way, Billy Morin's going to be running with us in the next federal election." I'm like, how tokenizing is that? First off, to point to me, like he really personally is going to be representing me. And then just like, oh, there you go, little Indian woman. It's going
Yeah,
to be all better now.
Right.
yeah,
We got another Indian running with us. Like,
yeah,
Yeah.
mm-mm.
yeah.
Well,
But, and also, Billy, if with that attitude that you just shared with us, Real Native, about his saying that, not to worry about the lands anymore. We need to move forward. Like, I know people in Enoch who care about land and
Oh,
care about
yeah.
being on the
Yeah,
land and
there's
practicing.
people
yeah.
definitely. Like I
Yeah.
said, not everybody agrees with Billy.
Yeah. No
I
one,
would
you're right.
say
Yeah.
I've heard from some of my relatives there that say over half the reserve is wondering, like, Billy, give your head a shake.
Wow.
Yeah, I've
Interesting.
I've heard that
Anyway.
because I'm related to half of Enoch.
Yeah, you were saying that. Zibby. Yeah, Zibby, how are
Yeah.
you doing? What are your thoughts on this picture that's going around with Polyev and those Treaty 6 chiefs?
Okay. Jennifer from Indig Politics, she made a really good point, and that is the fact that there is a possibility that Polyev might get in, and it does serve in our interest to have meetings with him.
Yep.
But having a meeting with him is different than endorsing him.
Yeah.
Like, just so we're clear, I am pro meeting with elected, potential elected officials prior to them getting elected,
Yeah.
because it does make sense. However, endorsing Pierre Polyev is quite literally like being like, I never thought the lepers would eat my face.
Right.
Right.
But, like, that's what it is.
The leopards eat my face. I love that.
Yeah. That.
Well, I know the Grand Chief for Treaty 6 was doing some damage control. The day after that picture was taken, he put out a statement, and he was saying that, he wasn't there to support Polyev. He was just there to ask him questions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a
That's
lot
what.
of the chiefs, a lot of the chiefs that were there came out and said that they weren't there to support him. They're there to, the same thing.
Yeah, Chief Desmond Bull also made a post on TikTok saying that he was there to talk to him about protecting our Mother Earth and environmental protections and stuff, and not there to endorse him as well. So it's just, it shows you, like, it's conniving and sneaky, I feel like, because I also heard that this was arranged in 24 hours. There was like that much notice. So you know how busy chiefs are too. They're just as busy as any other politician. So to try to scramble and get, they probably had to cancel some meetings and things like that. So we need to be definitely sensitive to that. And I agree with what Jennifer from Digipol says too, because, we need to have conversations with everybody around these tables. Every party has screwed us over in some form or another in the past. So
Even the
Yes,
liberals. In the past, the
and
liberals have.
yeah, they
and
have.
I mean that's the thing, right? Like I was listening to what Zibby said. Thank you, Zibby. I always appreciate it. I was listening to what you had said. So I just ran down the stairs and almost fell.
Oh no.
I'm
Be careful.
okay.
Don't
I got
run.
this. Yeah, I kind of need to forget that I tend to forget that my stairs are not to be run down because they're so steep.
Right?
So just give me a second to catch my breath. But
Yeah.
there's something to be said about that picture, and I haven't seen it. I haven't digging dug deep enough into that whole wheel of mess. But the way I look at it, if you're gonna sit there and you take a picture with a politician, a candidate for prime minister, and you're gonna sit there and say whatever you're gonna say, and take a picture with him, and then say, "Oh, it was only." That's like saying I got my hand caught in the cookie jar, and I just had to make something to make it sound good. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's more lip service
Yeah.
again from politicians.
Mhm.
True. And, I know our chiefs can also, they like to be in the limelight and stuff too. But I do know the one really well, and I do believe him that he was there in good faith,
Yeah.
also had no understanding that this would be used as some form of endorsement for him, for Polyev. So,
I
but
haven't,
I mean,
you
I'm
know,
not saying that all chiefs that were there were bad. I'm just saying, like Billy Moore, and like, oh, I was here to tell that kind of like, but we know he's gonna endorse him, and that's the scary part.
oh yeah.
yeah.
It's not the fact that it's scary. I feel like endorsing somebody who is about to vote to eat our faces,
Yeah.
Yeah,
because we know we cannot deny how Pierre Polyev feels about us.
no,
Exactly.
Like
we can't.
that is really evident, and for you to still be backing him
And
shows a deep level, I think, of internal shame of how you feel about yourself. Because
Right.
can you let me finish for a second? When we are talking about the pick me's and all of that, there is a deep level of shame that comes out from these people. And I'm not saying that that makes them bad, but it also really makes me have empathy for them when
You.
they are voting against their own people. Because to not have love for your people, in my humble opinion, is to not have self love.
Absolutely, ZD. Sorry about that. I thought I was muted when I was talking.
I have it on good authority that some chiefs were asked to show up there and they were like, oh, hell no.
Yeah. You know what else I struggle with? And not no offense to the Chiefs, but I feel like unless you're going to commit as a party leader or the prime minister or whomever you are, especially at the federal level, to meet with chiefs, there are 634 of them in this country. We should be
That's right.
meeting with them all. And there's no time to meet with them all. And you just hearing from a handful means you're only hearing from a handful of people, and you're not hearing from all voices of Indigenous people. Plus, they only represent the First Nations that those chiefs represent. They don't represent all the First Nations and Métis people and Inuit people that live in the cities or have been displaced from their land or that went through 60s scoop or foster care system or right. So
I,
it's a really delicate situation, and I was shocked at first too. My gut reaction was like, "Oh my god!" I wanted to lose it a little bit, right? But
I had the honor of sitting down with my brother yesterday
mhm.
and I asked him what he thinks. And that, he said, if I had been asked, he said it would have been a hard no. He said, and he said, it seems like Polyev wants to meet with people who are in an echo chamber, you know, want to, he'll talk with people who will, echo his sentiments. But he won't meet with all the chiefs because he knows that a lot of the chiefs will tell him where to go and what to do when he gets there.
Right?
Yeah,
Just like what happened at the AFN gathering.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. So
Yeah.
he handpicks who he talks to,
right.
And
and
and a
this
little
is my brother's a person who sat 2 seats away from Trudeau. So I mean, I'm so incredibly proud of that.
Nice.
Like,
So next to Dummy Smith, I mean, Marlena.
right. And
Mhm.
we look at it now and we're like, okay, I look at this now and I'm like, even if I vote, is it really gonna matter?
Mhm.
Yes, it's gonna matter.
It always matters. It
No,
always
I
matters.
know, but this is just my like my head
I know.
playing like the games with it because like it's been going through that like whole phase because I got my voting card yesterday and I'm like, thank
Hmm.
God, and I'm sitting here and I was talking to an Indigenous person yesterday morning and I literally wanted to go through that screen and give him a hug because what he was saying was everything that the um the cons say all the time. Oh, he has First Nations in hand and we're sending money to Africa for X, Y, and Z reasons. And I'm like, that's not what I'm saying. You voting for him is your choice. But if he takes away our rights, you had a hand in that.
Yep.
You are to look at yourself and no one else and ask them, why am I losing my rights? And you
Yeah.
just can't. He, I just gotta. I have to calm down for a minute, so I'm gonna mute.
See,
Yeah. So,
see the
and
thing.
I noticed. I just wanted to give Crazy I Am a chance to join the
Oh,
conversation, if that's. But Real Native, did you have something quick you wanted to add, or?
oh, I
Oh,
was
I
just
was
gonna say I was glad
Hello.
I got to sit down with my brother because I don't get to see him that much anymore.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
good.
he's
Yeah.
always on the road. He's always, and when he sees stuff like what happened with Polyev, he has to roll his eyes and he's like, oh, and shakes his head, you know, because he's
I
got so
get it.
much on his plate, the poor guy.
Yeah. I know. I get it. Welcome, Crazy I Am. What do you have to say? I'm just gonna. I'm still listening. I'm just gonna go top off my iced coffee here, but I'm listening.
Yeah, that's fine. Um, I was upset with the picture because I was finding it was putting out a bad message because it made us look like that we were agreeing with everything he does when like probably about half of us don't agree with him. Um, I'm hoping that this doesn't impact people's vote uh to get him away from being our prime minister because I know
See,
every time I
that was
look at him, every time I see him, he is going to destroy our people. I just know he is. Like, there is no doubt in my mind. Every time I see him, I know he's going to destroy us.
And this is exactly, you know what, where my brain went. Like, we've all heard Pierre Polyev
the same thing.
so romanticizing about Sir John A. Macdonald. We heard him say we don't work hard enough and we're basically a waste of money when we get settlements for claims and reparations. Like, we've heard these things. We've heard him when he talks about our people protesting to protect our Mother Earth and our relations. And so I
Yeah,
felt the same way too. Like, oh my God, what are these chiefs doing with him?
Exactly. Like, I was like, no, you can't do this to us because he is so going to destroy everything that we need to fight for our elders, for our future children. Um, you know, I get slapped in the face all the time when people are like, "Oh, well, so you'll lose your what? You're going to lose your right to get your teeth fixed and your eyes paid for." That ain't what I'm talking about, dude.
No.
I'm
Yeah.
talking about my right to live on this earth, this land, and be one with it without feeling like I'm going to get my
yes.
butt kicked every day.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's why I was like,
So I want to share something. And I don't want to come across like I'm trying to stereotype or anything. These are observations based on my experience over the years. So I'm a duty to consult practitioner. I've been doing duty consult work since duty consult became a thing at following the Mikisew case in 2005. So one thing when I work for industry, because industries, that's where most of the money comes when you do the duty consult. Because usually at the end of the day, after you do the consultation process, there's a conversation about oftentimes training, jobs and contracts, and or agreements like impact benefit agreements or community agreements or revenue sharing agreements, things like this that always have some kind of money attached to it. Now, something I've noticed over the years, like, oh, let me just add one more thing. So all of that money, training, jobs, contracts, that is offered to offset or to make up for what's being lost when it comes to rights. And the rights are the rights to fish, hunt, trap, gather, have practice ceremony, be Indigenous people in relation to land. The one thing I've noticed when I go out, when I was working for industry and I'd go out and I'd consult with various First Nations in Alberta, almost every time when it was a man who was sitting across the table from me representing his First Nation, the first thing they'd ask me is, do we get, how many jobs and contracts can we get? What kind of agreement are you offering? Whereas when it's women, they want to know, what are the impacts to the water? What are the impacts to the vegetation? What are the impacts to the wildlife? And that's really telling to me. And I'm not trying to put our men down. I just think it's a different way of being, right? So I've always found that when we have balance in those offices, a man and a woman, like, but the women do always get to the conversation about jobs and contracts, but they want to know first, what are the impacts? What are we losing? And it's really unfortunate. And not all of our men, and only some, many do want to have the conversation about rights as well. But there still are some of our Indigenous men, our First Nation men, who will skip the whole conversation about the impacts to the environment and the impacts to our rights just to have a conversation about the money. And I find that really kind of heartbreaking. And it reminds me, that's what I think of how Billy would be. If I was consulting him, he'd want to know how much money could be realized from the process.
Exactly.
And it's really, and I don't know if it comes from the men being providers, you know, and women, our role is water protectors, but men are land defenders too. So it's just an observation I've made, and I'm not trying to paint anybody with a brush, or I've just been curious about it. And I've been thinking more about it too since we saw this photo of these chiefs. Because I did note, I didn't see a woman in that room.
Neither did I.
And there are a couple of female chiefs in Alberta.
Yeah, we had our first female chief. Well, we've had several, but the last one we had, she didn't do so well. So,
Same here.
Zuby says she needs to have a sociological rant.
Sociology rant, you okay? Go, Zuby.
okay.
We're
Okay.
ready.
So, hold on. Sorry, that's really loud.
Good.
Okay, so when it comes to like the discussion of our men, you have to, like, especially when it comes to Enoch, and this isn't slander against Enoch. This is the fact that Enoch is closest to the city and would have been more impacted, had a bigger impact on them because of the fact that they've been closer to the city.
Yeah.
Right? And men have been socially conditioned to be different than women. Unless you, like, are holding tight to the stronghold of our culture, it's going to impact how you relate to the land. And in my humble opinion, so does being a language keeper. Because of the fact that you can't remove the land from the language, right? Like, you can't separate those two. They're always going to go hand in hand. Now, when it comes to discussion about our men, Christian propaganda, this is not hate on whether or not you believe in God. I need this to be very clear. Is when we are talking about the sociological harms that we suffer under, patriarchy goes hand in hand with capitalism. That's another thing that can't be separated. So when you're closer to capitalistic areas, such as cities, that's going to change how you view, and that's going to make you more prone to upholding these systems of oppression. right? Because we have to remember the fact, like, traditional keeping is the fact that land is a woman, right? So that goes hand in hand with the whole patriarchy talk, right? And then when we're, like I said, it's going to be a hot second, and I'm really sorry.
That's okay.
But
Keep going.
when we are talking about being land defenders, like, we need our men to be, like, in depth with the land. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but, like, you have to have that really foundational relationship with the land in order to protect it the way that and care for it, because you're going against the propaganda of the patriarchy, and that is the fact, when you are a provider, what do you have access to as a provider? Women, right? And women are capital. We are a resource in colonial society, right? And that's where, I've been trying to rack my brain of how we help heal our men, because there are a lot of men, native men, who know that there's something up. And because Elder Marie said it, where she was like, we have to move away from decolonize because it makes white people ashamed to be themselves. But this is also a part of the discussion of patriarchy, because of the fact that our men uphold violence against women, and there are men in our community who want to heal that. And again, this is not saying that all men are violent. I need to make sure that nobody's gonna come after me for talking sociology, but it's moving away from that part of you, because I feel like colonialism is violence, and obviously we all know that, but it also is violence within yourself to inherently always want to oppress somebody. And whether or not that somebody is planet Earth or women in general, like, still comes back to your self-love. I hope that made sense, and I hope I didn't lose you, because I was trying to make it like so that it all goes back into a circle.
No, it really does make sense. Thank you. And it's speaking like this is fully in our topic of internalized shame and racism, and it explains a lot, right? The colonial policy and what it did to us. I'm sure I bet you every single one of us Indigenous people in this room can think of one or two things in our own behavior that is indicative of that internalized shame or hatred.
Yeah.
Like I struggled with addictions at one time in my life. And looking back, in some of my behaviors as a young adult and stuff, I can see definitely what I would have, that could have been part of why I was struggling, right? It's tough. It's really hard. And it's hard to have that be introspective and see, it's easy for us to talk about, the people we're talking about and look at them from the outside. It's a little bit harder sometimes for us to see it within ourselves, but I think most of us have seen it within our own selves from time to time.
There is, going back to what ZB said, I remember last summer or the summer before, someone had said something about Indigenous people and how it would be great to get rid of them. I don't know who said it. Like, it was just something I heard in passing. They were talking about Indigenous people and how good it would, how glad they're gonna be when PP, finally gets rid of us and da da da, and there's no more. And I'm like, and I sat there and I'm like, the next time, like that night, I was going for a shower because it
Oh,
was
deep
really.
from Vancouver, Schmurse.
No, no, no. It was in Madison. It was in Alberta here. It was
Okay.
where I lived. I was walking with a friend and I overheard that. My friend's like, please don't say anything. Please don't say anything. I'm like, nope. I am not talking to ignorant people right now because I'm so mad and I will chew them out and I'll end up getting a charge. And I've never had a charge in my life, so I want to keep it that way.
Yeah, please.
So I went back to my house that night because it was really gross and sticky, and I went and had a shower and I sat there trying to scrub my skin
Oh.
till the tan would come off.
You know, it's funny you say that because my mom is my non-Indigenous parent, and she's a dark pigment German. And like my grandfather always, like he said, he thinks that we were gypsies, like that from that side of my family. Anyways, she too, as a child, she told me that she would scrub herself because the kids at school would tease her for being dark. And it's
Yeah,
really sad, Smarshy, to hear that you felt that way. I'm sorry, and nobody should feel that way. And you know what? Those people can say all they want about ridding Canada or Turtle Island of Indigenous people. We're the fastest growing population. You know, sadly, we do have
exactly.
a pretty high mortality rate as well, but um,
Yeah,
there are, even Louisville is one of the nations I worked for, and they have like, I think something like 75% of their population is under 22 or something like that. I forget the exact statistic, but that's a,
right now our population in Canada for Indigenous people is 7%.
Hey, I just wanted to say this.
uh,
I work with quite a few indigenous people in my
okay.
field,
Welcome.
and I'm gonna say, yo, big up to them. Good people. Never seen anything bad to them. So Bieber politics, coming from a black Canadian, you know, I respect my indigenous people here.
Well, thank you very much for that. Is it Starbound is your name?
Yeah,
Welcome. Where are you at? And are you over 18?
yeah,
And where are you located?
Alberta,
Oh, which part of Alberta? Do you know which treaty territory you're on?
Treaty 66, I think.
Nice. So Edmonton area?
Yeah.
Ah, okay, good. I'm glad that you know. Welcome. Welcome to our conversation. Um, so now I guess we've talked about that for probably like 45 minutes almost now. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, we all heard Mr. Carney saying, and I was pretty happy to say that, to hear this. He said that the Indigenous people should be the ones to manage the waters and wildlife. One thing I didn't hear him say, though, was natural resources. And remember, every word is purposeful.
Yeah.
So politicians choose their words wisely. And
Yeah,
purposefully.
because
Actually,
Mr.
I did
Carney,
hear him say
Start.
Mr. Carney,
I have
can I
a
say this? Can I say this?
Starbound, so just hang on a second, okay? Because we take our turns. So we're going to start from the top and work our way down back to you. So listen for now, and then we'll get to you, okay? Okay, go ahead, Smarshy.
What was I
I
spaced
was
out.
just, and it's okay. No, I was bringing up how Mark Carney said that Indigenous people should manage the waters and manage wildlife. But
Oh
one
yeah,
thing, yeah, one thing he did not say, though, was we should is natural resources, and that's
yeah,
purposeful. Yeah.
right. And I mean it. With that being said, yes, I believe that we should have the natural resources and everything like that because we are keepers of this land. We are the people that started this country. This country would not be anything if it was not for us. Let's
That's
make
right.
that first and foremost. Um, and Starbounding, you can say that his dad was against Indigenous people, but his dad is not running for prime minister,
Oh,
so that does not hold anything.
and just for everybody who know in this room, I have permission to say this. I have a dear friend of mine who is an elder from First Nation just outside of Yellowknife, but it's a fly-in community. She
Yeah,
went to that residential school. Mark Carney's dad was the principal. She said he was a nice man. The school wasn't bad. And all of the North supports Mark Carney. So,
right. So again, with that being said, we have to look at the backstory of everything. And honestly, when I'm speaking and people say, "Oh, Mark Carney's dad was this," yeah, Mark Carney's dad was probably not a good person. His grandfather was probably not a good person. But here's the thing we have to look at: we are the keepers of this land. We are the reason this land is Canada. So please, first and foremost, remember that. Um, you cannot own land, you cannot own water, you cannot own the animals, the earth, everything, and all that because that belongs to Mother Earth. And the fact that Mark Carney wants to fight for the Indigenous people, he's got my vote hands down. I'm sorry. I can't vote for a man who idolizes a white supremacist, racist, homophobic piece of crap. I'm sorry. I just can't.
Yeah.
I don't see that ever being a good thing.
Oh,
I will never, ever support Polyev because Polyev has told us time and time again by telling on himself and spewing his shit by saying the quiet parts out loud, and the quiet parts are going to get him the boot for prime minister. Sorry, I'm going with Carney, 100%.
Nice. Awesome. And okay, well, let's hear from Zibia. What do you think about some of the things that you've heard Mark Carney say in the last week or so? Because I remember we didn't have a show last week, so it's been a couple weeks since we've actually spent some time together.
can I make a suggestion before Zibby goes ahead?
Yep.
There's you can set a timer. If you could give us all maybe 2 minutes.
Sure. I can do that.
Yeah.
I don't know
And-
how to set a timer, but I can just watch.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do that. I can. So, okay, 2 minutes. Go.
So here's where I find it interesting is when they're talking about putting trade from coast to coast. How are you supposed to make us quote unquote trust us to be the land defenders and the protectors and making sure that the water's not damaged when you are already talking about pushing modes of transportation through the lands? It just gets a little bit confusing because you have to be paying attention to the things that he's saying beyond when it comes to our people. Right? Anyway, that's my thoughts for right now.
I agree. I think what I'm hearing you say too is we have to pay attention to what's not being said as much as what's being said. Right. And I agree, because there's going to be a huge push now. Whomever wins, it's looking like Carney, but both Carney and Poilievre have been saying that they're going to be moving to advance as quickly as possible resource development in this country. I have a little more faith in the Liberal government to be more mindful of our rights, to make sure that we're included in the conversation early. I hope. I really hope so. I did hear him say, Mr. Carney did make an announcement
Yesterday.
a couple days ago, actually, I think when I was in Nova Scotia last week, about creating a major project office again. So that means that and his commitment was that that projects will be reviewed and approved within 2 years. So right now it's taken up to 5 years sometimes, but that's to be blamed on the companies as well. So these companies have to come to the table prepared to spend the time and the money to have meaningful consultation with Indigenous people. That is the law. And what happens, a lot of companies, they want to fight that instead. They'll spend more time negotiating to try to reduce the cost of talking with us and doing business with us than if they would have just come to the plate and say, here's what we have to offer and let's get to work. We want to get to work too. I don't know too many Indigenous people that are completely 100% opposed to good projects, good, meaningful projects. But one thing I would suggest, I would like to see personally for me and professionally, I want to see commitment for them to put some things back. So if you're going to build a new transportation corridor, which might mean more trains, more pipelines, more power lines, all of those types of things, that means that there's also going to be the production of whatever energy. So the production of oil or gas to put in those pipelines, the production of the power to transport on those power lines, plus whatever other resources you're going to be using rail to ship across the country, then they better start putting some things back and making sure and finding ways to help us be a part of the reclamation and restoration of some of the messes that are left. That is one thing I heard from elders and land users over and over and over again in the last almost 20 years that I've been doing the duty to consult, is why are you always taking and not putting anything back? And I truly believe if we were reclaiming and restoring lands as quickly as we're taking them, we wouldn't have the issues around climate change, cumulative effects, loss of biodiversity, ecosystem failure. All of those things would not be as critical as they are right now if we were actively putting things back, but there's no money to be had in
Hey,
that.
Beaver.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know. I'm just gonna call you Beaver. I apologize if
Okay.
I'm saying your name wrong. But can I speak from the experience of
Can he wait
working
his
with?
turn?
Yeah, you gotta wait your turn, my friend. Cause so next is Real Native, then Crazy AM, and then it's you, okay? That's how we work on Beaver Politics on Indigenous Matters. But it'll get to you, get a piece of paper and a pen and write down your thoughts so that you don't forget. We all have our paper and pen here. And but we'll get to you, okay? Okay, go ahead, Real Native.
So all I keep hearing from Mark Carney is we need to have duty to consult with the Indigenous. Every speech he makes is, we need to advance energy resources, but we need to do it the right way. We need to have the First Nations in on the consultation process. You don't hear that from Pierre Poilievre. You hear him say we need to advance energy and resources and stuff like that, but you don't hear him mention the First Nations people. Everything he says is built around oil and gas, but Mark Carney's got other plans like our healthcare, our education, green energy, stuff like that. I don't trust a guy who told us we need to learn the value of hard work more than we need money. We most recently said in 2018 or 2019 that the Indigenous people should never have total autonomy because it would decimate Canada's energy sector. He does not, and then he does a 180 and says, "Oh, I will allow them to spend money on water by doing this and doing that." He makes it look like he's trying to work for us, but really secretly what he's doing is he's trying to systematically get rid of the treaties.
Absolutely.
Mark Carney to me is the guy who has First Nations thoughts in his in his plans. He has Canada in his plans. He wants to advance the most expensive, the most money-making cash cow that Canada has, the pipelines and the oil field, but he wants to do it the right way. He doesn't want to just ram it through like PP does. PP, let's not forget, he voted against Bill C-69, which would give First Nations people the right to have say over the land, and he calls it the non-pipeline bill, the stop pipeline bill. So that's my rant.
Thank you. You're at 2 minutes and 18 seconds.
Sorry,
Just kidding.
you
It's
should
all
have
good.
said something.
No, it's okay. But no, and I totally all I've heard Polyev say is he will give tax dollars to Indigenous people, no, just to First Nations, so they can buy their own water. That's what I heard him say. And that's all I've heard him say. Yes, and he talks about reconciliation, economic reconciliation. Doesn't talk about our children. He doesn't talk about education. He doesn't talk about the health outcomes. He just talks about how can I get these people involved in the economy so that we no longer have to worry about them anymore. It's just really ongoing assimilation from my perspective. But anyways, that's my little add to your talk. So Crazy I am. Go ahead, my friend.
I think when I listen to PP talk, all I hear coming out of his mouth is what he thinks we want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And remember the Peanuts?
Yeah.
The teacher? That's what I hear every time I hear him. Because all he is doing is saying womp, 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 womp to make us think that he's for us, but he's not. He's more of a man who wants to put a front on, but he's that man that is going, like Trump is a prime example. He put on this front, And then when he got into office, he tore everything apart. And that's what PP is going to do. He's not going to give us the boatloads of money that he says he's going to give us to clean our water. He's not going to respect our wishes when it comes to our land. He's not going to do that because to him, all he wants to do is line his pockets. And that's the one thing I can't get behind with him. Mark Carney, I'm leaning more towards because, you know, I want to believe everything he says. Okay. Can I believe everything he says? Kind of not, because we've been hurt before, right? You know, it's been a book of broken promises from our government for so many years that you want to believe it, but then there's a part of you that doesn't because you're so scared of everything that has happened. But that's my take on it. Like I'm moving more towards Mark Carney. I would never vote PP. I would even vote one of the other people in over him. He is one person that I can't stand to hear at all.
Well done. 2 minutes and 1 second.
Woohoo!
No, and I totally agree with you. One thing about when we say, can we believe Mark Carney? The one thing that's different about him is he's not a career politician. So he's not in the business of just saying words for the sake of being elected and stuff. I really do believe in my heart that he's doing this to save our country from the economic turmoil that the world is facing right now, because he loves this country as much as we do. And another thing that I really think about with Mark Carney is his wife. His wife is a powerhouse who cares about Mother Earth. She's a climate activist. You know, she's worked hard in environmental protection. And she's got a pretty impressive resume herself. So, you know, a man that's married to a strong woman like that has those strong convictions, he obviously does too. I think, anyways. I guess time will tell. But Pierre Poilievre has been lying to us and spewing hatred. You know, just think about how he talked about us, our people that were protesting in BC on the Coastal GasLink project. You know, he was all for the RCMP going in there and taking down their camps and arresting them and saying that, oh, these people are harming our economy. But meanwhile, he didn't have a problem when those convoyers were blocking that bridge that goes into from Canada into Buffalo. And so like that, then that was billions of dollars of trade, I understand. So we'll see. Poilievre has shown us who he is. All right, Starbound, I see in the comments that you look like you might be a little bit of a challenging conversation, but let's hear what you got to say.
So I will speak on Carney first, for the fact that he's been a career businessman his whole life. His father has made if you guys see, I'm getting, I gotta start reading the comments. So I'm gonna look away from the comments. So when I read that what his father wrote about indigenous people and what he said about why indigenous people need to be controlled, I kind of felt the type of way because, you know, I'm a black person and I feel like YT people shouldn't control anybody of color. That's point number one. Point number two, Carney owns many shares of Brookfield, who what that lady
Poilievre, buddy. So does Poilievre.
So does Poilievre, yep.
Hey, no, Poilievre. Hey. I'm
He
speaking.
owns shares in Brookfield.
I'm speaking.
My show.
But yeah,
He owns a majority share of Brookfield. Brookfield has pipelines in America and also in other in Africa, in black people of color places. indigenous spaces in Africa. And when you're saying that, oh, Carney cares about the environment, I'm like, how does he care about the environment if he owns a company that majority works with? Uh,
Make your
uh,
point, dude.
in, huh?
So, okay.
Is it possible to just speak and not like?
Yeah, finish your thought.
Yeah. Thank you. So when you say Carney is about the environment, that's not true. When you say Carney is about indigenous politics, that's not true either. When you say the liberals are about indigenous politics, I will be honest with you. When
Oh,
Trudeau
listen to this.
Trudeau bought a $40 billion pipeline, the Trans Canada pipeline.
Yes. The best pipeline ever built in this country that included up to 60% Indigenous employment, and all of the Indigenous mitigation measures were employed.
There you go. There you go. And I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. I worked with
That was the
people.
Liberals.
LNG
Yeah, but I
also.
worked with. Hey. I'm trying to finish.
Okay,
I
finish up and
worked
then
with.
I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, but but I work in oil and gas, so I work with
I thought
people
so.
that.
I thought so.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought
I
so too.
work with people that indigenous people that
Just
it,
hate your job, buddy.
huh?
Okay. I'm
Hate
going
your
to
job.
What do you say?
I don't know. But okay, number one. Mr. Polyev does not have, he voted against anything to do with Indigenous people. He voted against the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act. He voted against the Safe Drinking Water Act.
He voted against Section 35.
He voted against, well, was he around then? That was in 82.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
he
I remember
voted
that.
against. He
IPO
also voted.
Behavior wasn't
He voted.
involved with that either.
He
So you
voted
can say
against
those things.
Bill C-69 as well. He
What?
also voted. He
He
voted against
Bill
Bill
69.
C-69. He also voted against giving us. He also has had disparaging things about your community and our community. I don't understand why, sir, as a black man, you are voting for
Yeah.
a man who has said horrible things about your community as well.
He's
Yeah.
trying to save
Well,
his
I'm,
I'll be
job.
honest with you. Could I be honest?
yeah.
He's worried about his job. That's all
All
it is.
right. So I'm the type of person that uh where I feel I fit in is if I work harder, uh be
Wow.
better.
So appeasing to the
Uh
oppressor. Okay, got it.
Yeah. You
you can't
suffer
be
from
you can't
internalized racism.
internalize racism. I don't think it's internalized racism. We could speak about that. I don't think my wife,
Okay,
who's a charge nurse in three hospitals, is internalizing herself. I
no.
think
But the
that
thing
is the
is,
fact that
here.
what
Mm,
But if you
mm,
don't think that your worth, like that you think that your worth is based on your ability to work hard,
yes.
isn't that how it's supposed to be?
well, maybe in this
But
capitalist
see,
patriarchal society, perhaps, but
Hmm. In a capitalist society.
we're trying to decolonize a little bit here too, right? So, yeah, we all want to be able to sustain ourselves financially and economically. We want to participate in society, but it doesn't have to be on the terms of the colonizer.
Well,
I ask
I
you,
think
do you
well,
care?
I think it's resource management, right? And I felt a lot, and I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I do honestly think that speaking to indigenous people, Treaty 66 people that I worked with, Heisler people that I worked with, uh,
okay,
uh,
but
when I
working
was
is having
hold on, let
prostate.
me just I
Okay.
want to
No,
ask
no,
a question. I want to ask a
no.
question to I
And
want to
then
make up I want to ask a question. I
go
do
ahead.
feel that there are people, indigenous people, that are against any progress for their people, and I feel there are
Okay.
indigenous people that want to progress their people. So can you
Okay.
explain
I'm
that?
going to mute you
Can
now
I ask a
because
question?
I'm
Can
going
I
to
Can
ask a
let,
I?
question?
I'm going to mute him. Hang on. And I'm going to let Zibby, because she had her hand up. But, buddy, what you just said is like, you
Mm,
can't define our successes for us. Go ahead, Zibby.
Um, I don't take this the wrong way. Starbound, but how is it you are comfortable as a black man voting for somebody who supports the Triple K? Second of all, you saying that you can be a good, hardworking person and that's going to be enough. Why are you pushing yourself through bootstrap theory? We all know bootstrap theory can't be done. You cannot pull yourself up by the bootstraps. It can't be done. Like, sociologically, it can't be done. And for you to say that there are those of us who don't want to progress,
Oh no. What?
Can
Like,
can
what are
I?
you
Are
gonna
you
Can
do?
saying that
I?
it can be done or it can't? It can't be done.
Oh, let
Can't.
her finish.
can't.
All
Let
right,
a woman
can't.
finish for
Okay.
once.
Marcy,
Whoa,
you
whoa,
can
whoa.
go.
Can I ask
So
him a question first, Mars?
yeah, go ahead.
So Starbucks, do you believe that this land should be controlled by the people who were here first?
Okay.
Oh my. Oh,
You're on
oh
mute.
wow.
You're on mute.
Mm,
Yes,
there we go. Oh, I muted him by mistake. Sorry, buddy.
yes. I think they should have a say, and I should have a part of getting the beneficial financial benefits of
But what if our
any.
but
Go
what if our
ahead.
interests lie in saving the land?
Yeah, not
I
for
mean,
fun.
if you're an
It's not
environmentalist,
always about money,
which
buddy.
I am not, I'm not an environmentalist.
I
But we
We know
are.
that.
I
Traditionally,
wanted
we are
We
all
can tell.
environmentalists.
Yeah, and you're removed from your land, Starbound. Like, so your connection to land has been severed, sadly. It's really
Yes.
unfortunate for you. But so Nijan Sinclair is the son of late Murray Sinclair, and he said it really well in a conference I attended. Indigenous people are not environmentalists. We are fighting for our relations. So in our worldview, that land, those trees, all of the animals that live on it, every plant that lives on it, those are all of our relations. That's our family. So we're not environmentalists. We are part of this land. They're just as much as the trees that I surround myself with, and the birds that live in those trees, and the deer and the moose that are on this land, and all the medicines and the water that makes its way through the land. Those are our relations. We're
Treaty.
not
Yeah.
environmentalists.
Trudy,
Can
can you
I?
put my picture up on the big on the in the big box? Just
No,
around the
I
How
whole
do
understand.
I
thing?
I
how do I
understand what you're
do
saying.
that?
I understand what you're saying, but
Okay.
like,
Okay. I'm.
but I want to
Wait a
make one
second.
point. I want to make one point. Can I
Okay,
make
go
it quick?
ahead then.
10
I got to
seconds.
figure out how to
Every
switch.
every company I've ever worked for has been more than accommodating to the land.
Ho ho! Let me tell
Wow.
you, buddy.
Wow.
Let
Uh,
me tell
Okay.
you. Okay, go ahead.
Mercy,
and
go
But
you
I
were
ahead.
mean, I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen
no,
where. Go ahead.
you have seen an Alberta standard. And let me
Yeah.
tell you, the Alberta standard is not the highest standard. Albertans like to think it's the highest standard. I have worked in this oil, I've worked in oil and gas too, but I work on the environmental protection side, and I'm a biologist, and I've been doing this for almost 30 years. And I can tell you, it's
Hey.
not what you think it is, my
Hey,
friend.
guys. Can I have a talk with Starbucks?
Go ahead.
Because that would be great. Okay. So people in the comments, Starbucks are saying, how many handouts do we need to make poverty? Okay. We're not looking for handouts. If you look, I have a video on my TikTok pages, and it states that the First Nations treaties does not have any money left in it because the greedy government kept using it as their piggy bank. It was all their piggy bank. It was our money, but they used it for their selfish reasons. So if people are going to sit here and say that we are conquered people, no, you don't write treaties with conquered people. The whole thing of treaties were we're to share the land. But here's the thing: the oppressors, which is the colonizers, Starbucks, is hurting our land. They keep taking more. They're only supposed to dig the depth of a plow, which is 6 inches. Look it up. And 6 inches ain't a lot. We know that because, it's just sad that you are drinking the Kool-Aid of PP because he wants us to hold our bootstraps up. But you know what? I'm going to say that's a big fat no. He's a 20-year politician that has got nothing done. And honestly, you need to do some more research into PP because he ain't for shit. He ain't
That's
going to
right.
do
A
shit
little bit
for
of
us.
respect because he was a
Hey,
I would
foster.
like to speak
He was a
too.
foster kid,
yeah.
and becoming a
I'm
foster
sad
kid.
for that.
You know
Yeah, it's a
what?
foster kid.
Hey, it
Everybody
does.
has had everybody. I'm saying every human being that I know has some kind of struggle that they built on themselves. And what I'm trying to say is, I know it's kind of hard to have a difference of opinion because I know this is a liberal room.
No,
Yep.
it's not. I'm
I
not a
know this is a
liberal.
liberal room. It's Carney, and uh, I'm being honest with you
Wow.
when I say
We
I just have a difference of opinion.
okay.
Read the room,
Yeah,
please. Starbucks, read the
Yeah.
room.
So
yeah, the room is different.
this we are about rights in this room actually, and we're about protecting our sovereignty, both Canada's and our Indigenous sovereignty. And I'll tell you, Starbound is if we let Mr. Polyev run this country, all of our sovereignty will be gone. We will be the 51st state.
And
But I
he
want to
won't have
pass
a
it over.
job anymore.
And I want to pass it over to Trash Panda because she hasn't had or that person hasn't had a chance to talk. So go ahead.
Good evening. How are you?
Hello.
First and foremost, I just want to say that I acknowledge that I'm on Treaty 7 territory, the home of the Beaver people, the Stoney Nakoda, Sutina and Sika and Makainai and the Picani and Chiniki. So,
Thank you.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm a colonial. I'm not gonna deny that fact. I mean, for me, as somebody that's a union person and been involved in the labor movement for a few years now, and recognizing truth and reconciliation, the residential schools, the day schools, and the unceded territory. And my worry is that at the end of the day, no matter if it's liberal or conservative, can we really, really trust a government to do what's best for Indigenous people when it should be up to the nations to how do I say this? It should be up to the nations to determine their own way. And as much as I recognize that I'm in Alberta, when I hear of places like Fort Chipewyan and the struggles and the tragedy that faces that community, and then when I see places like Grassy Mountain and the Eastern Rockies, and no consultation with the Indigenous
Oh,
and the communities, and but for me, it's really hard because as a colonial, I'm not going to try and speak on Indigenous matters when I myself am still learning.
well, I'm glad that you're here to learn, and we appreciate your openness. And what you're talking about is self-determination, which we all agree, I think, that is something we strive for as Indigenous people. And Zibby wanted to add to the conversation, so I'm going to turn it back to her for a sec.
I needed to clarify something, and for those who have been on the panel with me, know that child welfare is an immense passion of mine because this primarily impacts our people. So, for anybody to say that Pierre Polyev is a foster kid, I need y'all to know that that is a blatant lie. He was adopted and then also had his biologically related brother also adopted into the same family. So, for him to try and say that he's in the same community as a lot of First Nations people is so infuriating because if that were true, he would actually give a shit
Yeah.
about those who are in care. he would actually be voting for things that would help unhoused people. He would be funding actual First Nation bills to go through that would actually help our people rather than talking about how we need to learn the value of a hard day's work.
Right. Thank you, Zibby.
That is one
For,
thing that PP is never going to live down.
no, no, we
And
can't let him forget it ever. We cannot let anyone forget that he said
and,
those words.
and Trudy,
That's
can
much.
I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Going off what ZB said, thank you. I appreciate your knowledge always. And being that he isn't a foster kid and saying that he is, um, you think he would have more compassion. You think he would have more humility, honesty, wisdom, courage, truth, love. But he's in it for himself. He knows who his mother is. He knows who his father is. He knows who his parents are. He knows his background. Do you think any of the indigenous people up here can actually find records of who they are? No,
Nope.
can't. Because all those records were stolen. All
Yeah.
those records were burned. Nobody's going to know the true amount of the 150,000 indigenous children sent to residential schools, really what really happened to them. Because you know what? Some of them were just tossed away into incinerators. Some of them were just buried and thrown into rivers. We're not going to really know anything about our history and where our family comes unless we do a DNA test. That'll start. But then the government has us right where they want us. They have our DNA. There are so many, like myself, I'm fighting to get my records, to get my application in for the Métis Nation Society where I belong, but it was taken from me. I knew nothing about my Métis heritage. That doesn't make me less indigenous. But you know what? It's having humility and having empathy and having humanity for people and listening to their stories and not denying what is going on around us. We are in a modern day genocide. If you want to deny that, you can go ahead. But then you have to deny what happened to your people, Starbound. You would definitely have to deny what happened to your people. And we can't. We can't.
I know, I know. I hate. I just want to say this, and I hope
But
nobody and Ziba as well, and I hope anybody doesn't think that I don't have compassion. I have the most utmost compassion because, like,
but
you know,
your
No,
what
you
you're
don't.
saying is not showing your compassion. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
yeah, no, I
What
know.
you're saying
I
is
can
you come from
understand
a favorite
why what I'm
God.
saying.
You guys.
Yeah, what
Let's
I'm
not gang up
saying.
on him.
Go ahead. No, what I'm saying is, uh, I'm trying to find solutions for what I think the world, or what I think people like me, people that look like me, people that have the same experiences as me could find. And I'm not saying, hey, you know what I mean? Like, I know for a fact, I know a lot of people that I grew up with didn't have, are not the same way as me. I know a lot of people that are, drugs, are in
Yeah,
jail,
just
they didn't know have the, but I'm just saying, I don't know. And I respect everybody what they're saying, and I hope nobody thinks that I don't have compassion.
okay,
Well,
but this is the thing. When you're talking the way you're talking, you're sounding
Mm.
like an incompassionate person. You're talking like we don't know what's at stake right now. Because you have proximity to an indigenous person because you have friends that are indigenous does not give you the right to
lived
speak
with.
for those indigenous friends. It
Okay, I
and
apologize for that.
And I just want to say something really quickly. CM, Métis people have always been the lesser because they're half indigenous, half French. It doesn't matter. Why am I defensive? Because I am who I am. Métis have always struggled to find out where they belong, but we're still indigenous nonetheless,
Well,
and we need to work together.
yeah,
They're considered the third nation.
and so I want to backtrack 2 seconds for Trash Panda because you did mention something about the Grassy Mountain Coal Project, and I do want to just so I heard you say that there was no consultation. That's not true. There was actually years of consultation there, and actually some agreements were signed. But sadly, what happened there was there are chief and councils who sometimes sign these agreements without talking to their nations first and their membership. So I know that there was one nation that signed an agreement, and the citizens of that nation didn't feel that their chief was representing them when they signed off on that agreement. But there was, just so that you know, that there was a lot of consultation done on that grassy mountain, and it was denied the first time. That project was denied, and now it's rearing its head again. But anyways, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah,
Yeah, Beaver, I gotta go. I'm
Okay,
just gonna
thanks for
say,
coming up, and
yeah, thanks for having me. And
take care.
I
And
respect everybody's political opinion, and I
yeah,
respect everybody's how they grew up. And Ziba,
likewise.
I apologize if I ever said anything that you found disrespectful. I respect everything you said. Thank you again.
Thank you for
Bye.
joining the conversation, and make sure you vote in your best interest.
Thank you.
All righty. So anybody else would like to come up and
I
yeah,
just
go
wanted to
ahead.
speak on what was going on there. One about, I agree, me and Smarshy, I think we were on the same panel when it was brought up about our treaty money. There's none left. Okay. So to all those people out there who are like, oh, it's all about the money. It's all about this. No, it's not. It is about our land and what we want to do with it. We want it to be back to the thing. Mother Nature is hurting. I can see it every day that I look at my trees and go outside and see the animals and that. We are one with the earth. We're not about the money. So for everybody who sits there and says that, that's what hurts me the most, is that people come at us and say that all we want is money is wrong.
And you know, I can attest, like I have seen friends of mine that got settlements, like day school settlements, water settlement, all of that. And some of them like $100,000 within a couple months, that's gone, because money doesn't mean so much to us in the same way, right? It's a means to an end. So now I have this money and there's all these things I need, and some of my friends and family need things too, so I'm going to share what I have. That shows you how much money doesn't mean to us. Because and why we're getting reparations is because we win in the courts over and over and over again, because we can clearly demonstrate how Canada and the provinces have failed to uphold their treaty obligations. They have violated our rights just as humans, never mind like any other rights, like our indigenous rights and treaty rights. But so we continuously win, and that is
I
why we
just
get reparations.
I want to quote something from our friend Kelvin, as he
Please.
said, we were winning, and you were the ones who made us try sign those treaties. We were winning for our people. We were winning before we signed those treaties. It is you guys and my other half as white people
Yeah.
who have over the years lied and lied and lied about those treaties. You were the one who went back on them, not us.
That's right.
You.
That is
And
such a
so
good
for
point.
all those people out
Can
there
I,
who are just make me mad. Sorry.
Treaty Fix, can I play something for you
Yeah,
guys?
please. And I don't know how to make the screen, switch the screen around. I'll have to learn that for the next time, Real Native. Sorry.
Okay, let me just,
I'll teach you how to do it, Trini
Okay.
Berta.
okay.
I'm getting old.
No more.
Yeah, technology, I'm still, have to figure it out sometimes. But
So this is my late father,
hey,
his last international speech. Right now, most of the people in where I come from are not doing very good in preserving the environment. I want to thank you people here, people from New England, Scotland,
my own language.
That was in Scotland. The Beaver Lake Cree, they're, forgive my voice for cracking right now, but the Beaver Lake Cree, their court battle is not about money. There's no money attached to it.
It's never been about money, sweetheart.
It's never been about money. It's been about what my father just spoke about.
Mm-hmm.
It's about saving the land for future generations. Because like my dad said, if we don't, there's going to be nothing left for our grandchildren or great-grandchildren. I have 4 grandchildren. And my dad spoke about my daughters and my grandchildren in that speech, about how he wants to see the earth protected for their generations. And I want to see it protected for my grandchildren's generation and their children's generation. It's never been about money. So people who think that it's just another lawsuit for dollars, it's not.
No.
If the Beaver Lake Cree win, they don't get money out of that. What they get is the rest of First Nations people across Canada being able to have a say in land resources, what happens with it, where, why, and how resources are extracted, from mining to oil to coal, everything. If it's going to hurt the land or hurt, the environment and their way of life and their treaty rights, then the First Nation people should have a last say, because they're the stewards of the land.
Thank you for sharing that, Real Native. I really appreciate hearing your dad's voice. And I know that case is not about financial gain. Money doesn't bring back what we've lost when it comes to land and the beautiful places that we knew and that have now changed and probably changed forever. The water that's been impacted, the wildlife populations that have been impacted, the fish that are no longer healthy. Money doesn't bring that back. But CB, go ahead.
I want to give you a big hug, Real Native. With all this talk about money and settlements, everything that I do as far as research goes is for the benefit of my own people. And I know that that is inherently selfish because of the fact that it only centers us, but there have been multiple studies that come out that talk about the trauma, whether that's colonialism or our land being poisoned, that it takes 7 generations to eradicate that from our epigenetic markers.
What are
And
epigenetic markers, if you don't mind me asking?
epigenetics it's a new field of psychology that they're researching, that's stating that our trauma can be inherited from previous generations.
Okay.
So with that being said, 7 generations is what that's supposed to take for that to be removed from your bloodline. And for that, to me, is very disheartening, because it's one of those things that eradicates hope when I hear that statement. And that's where I've been trying to push to see if we could reduce it to even 3 generations. Because even reducing that genetic trauma to 3 generations versus 7 is going to mean the world to our people and our survival. That is love, solid love. And that, hold on, I'm getting choked up. Because back in the fall, I went to a conference with residential school survivors where they all lined up and said that they had never felt loved, right? In the context that we understand it. But I want to argue against that. Activism is love. And this is what we are doing right now by talking and having these discussions and going out and speaking and using our voice, because it is love that is going to bring our people back to each other.
You guys are all making me cry.
Yeah, exactly. I have a stupid question. What is that 3 in the corner there with those blue things?
Those are the gifts that people gave you.
Yeah. It's like, look at her.
Oh.
What corner?
Because I was like, what are those things, man? I've
That's
never.
your gifts.
Oh, nobody likes me. Oh, I'm
No,
just kidding.
no,
I'm
you're
kidding.
good. You're good.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I just wanted to say that court battle is my dad's legacy.
Yeah. What a great legacy. And you know what? It's going to be a wonderful outcome. And remember that video I just tagged you into about this changing the court system, like that government would be able to change laws and not the courts? That's a little bit concerning. But I just wanted to go back to Trash Panda. Did you have anything more you wanted to add to the conversation? And you've been a little bit quiet, so.
I'm just listening, you know, like I said, I'm still learning, so you know, I don't wanna step on anyone's toes, so don't mind me.
Well, we're glad that you're here to learn.
Trash Panda, I've been following you for a while, and I can tell you this: there is no silly questions you can ask. There is ignorant questions, but with ignorance you learn, right? It makes me sad that you feel that you're going to step on toes, because if you
Yeah.
don't ask the questions, you're not going to understand what you need to understand. And that's what I love about you, about all the people that come up here to learn, is giving us this voice. And I appreciate you so much. And ZB, you're making me cry, so please stop.
I know.
Just a reminder to everybody in the room, tapping is clapping and sharing is caring. We got about another half hour we'll chat for. And so let's just do some open conversation. We talked about the two things I was thinking we'd chat about was that Polyev photo and Mr. Carney's commitment to Indigenous people being the managers of water and wildlife. Go ahead, Zibby.
Hi, I know I take the floor a lot. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So I didn't fully read the article because I was at work. But have you read Pierre Poilievre's comments on the notwithstanding clause in order to go after murderers?
No.
Just so y'all know, the notwithstanding clause is very dangerous. It's used to basically remove your Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So when somebody comes after that,
I read that.
you should be ringing alarm bells. Just as this is a regurgitation from my classes of this, so I'm not thoroughly explaining it, but be paying attention to when somebody talks about the notwithstanding clause.
Yes. I agree. Because, man,
Standing clause like scary, or is it something that
it's against our
can hurt
rights.
us?
Yeah, it's against your freedom, and your rights as a person. It can be used against you for anything.
So like Danielle Smith has used it, or no, was it Mo?
No, it was Danielle Smith trying to use it.
And I think Mo did use it, as well as the Nova Scotia Premier on trans kids. So
that's what they were.
Yeah, they can use that notwithstanding clause to pass, I think, is it legislation or even policy? I don't know the details, so don't quote me. But it is used to pass whatever legislation, let's say in this instance, that may violate the rights of people. And they do it for the greater good, right? It's supposed to be for the greater interest of Canadians to violate some rights in real extreme circumstances. But it's not supposed to, that those should be only like wartime measures, things like that, when we need to protect the nation. And it might be at the cost of somebody's rights, but it's a slippery slope. And I do see it. So he wants to override the Charter of Rights and Freedoms to allow judges to impose consecutive life sentences for murderers. And this criminals, people who commit crime are people too, who have their own story, their own journey. And I think we should value all people and support them in healing, not just, lock up and throw away the key. Go ahead, Zibby.
Okay, so I need to say, first of all, crime is a social construct, and murder is a very nuanced subject because of the motives and how it's done and blah blah blah. I could do a lecture on this, so I'm trying to limit my thoughts to as quick as I can. And when you go after, there are already consecutive life sentences, which is just so people are clear. So it's 25 to life before you can be eligible for parole unless you are a dangerous offender. If you have been charged with first-degree murder. Just so we're clear. And when he's talking about that, I need you guys to also remember that there is a difference in sentencing on second-degree murder and manslaughter. Second degree and manslaughter do not have the 25 to life before parole, and they are not listed as dangerous offenders. Dangerous offenders are the ones who have that come up on their parole marker of when they go to apply, and the Gladue principles do not apply to them until it's after sentencing. That's my academia small talk that I just threw up.
Well done.
Okay, can I say something to Drax for that? Clean drinking water is actually almost all taken care of. We have 35 more sites that need clean drinking water out of 140 to 150
Yeah.
reserves that need clean drinking water. So that was thanks to the liberals. You can thank the liberals for that, because
And the
I
ones
sure
that
do.
are left are complete teardowns. They have to completely tear down their water treatment plant,
Oh, there's
Yep.
our
and that
friend.
takes time. That's why
And
those ones haven't been done either.
And a lot of people
Calvin!
don't. Hi, Calvin. A lot of folks don't realize too that, especially on the prairie provinces, the provinces control access to water. Plus, and I've said this in some of my other videos, the provinces are notorious for approving projects in or near First Nations that result in contamination of water. So then how is the Fed supposed to clean up a project that they have no oversight of?
Right.
So some of these that are left over have some really complicating factors. Anyways,
That's us. I just wanted about the cleaning water. My reservation, we still have what's called clean boiled days because our well water, we lost half of our reservation when the locks broke, and we lost half of our reservation, and because of that, our water became contaminated. So we have been fighting to get help getting our water back since the flooding. And it's funny because when you come to our reservation, we take you on the tour of the islands because there's all that we have left of our land and one main piece. So all of our wells got contaminated. So we're one of the reservations that are still waiting for the approval for getting filters and maybe even getting new lines put in so that we can have our clean water.
Crazy I am. What reserve are you on, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm on Curve Lake First Nations in Peterborough, Ontario.
I have dear friends that live in Curve Lake. I work for Nalma, if you know who Nalma is. Anyways,
You guys
So-
rough. You guys are going to take out Michelle Ferrari.
Yes.
Yes, we
Yes.
are.
Yes. Kick her to the curb. Woohoo.
Well,
Let's
that's
do
because
this.
he posted something on it, and I sent his post to everybody on my reservation that I know, and then they shared it, and then they shared it, and so
Love
then I
it.
sent it to another girl who's part of the Six Nations one that you also mentioned in there.
The
He,
I can't pronounce it.
The
yeah,
high
neither
guy?
can I.
Hayat, yeah.
She sent it to her reservation, all of her people. So Calvin, you have become very famous on all of our reservations.
Oh, thank
Yay.
you.
Awesome.
Did
Well, welcome,
anybody hear
Kelvin.
about the conservative candidate that got booted today from caucus?
No. Just for a real pause for a second. Trash Panda, if you're not gonna add any more to the conversation, do you mind to step down? We have others that want to come up.
No worries.
Okay, but you're welcome to stay if you wanted to talk some more, but I just because there's others that do want to come up. So if you're still just listening and learning, then you're welcome to come back. We do this every Monday. So
Yep, no worries.
okay.
I appreciate it.
Thank
Have a
you
good night,
so
everyone.
much.
You guys were speaking a second ago on the notwithstanding clause, right?
Yep.
He is intending on using the notwithstanding clause to enact life imprisonment for fentanyl. Using the notwithstanding clause, as you were saying, is a very dangerous, slippery slope. You all saw what happened in the United States. The United States is no longer a democracy. It ceased to be a democracy back in July 2024 when the Supreme Court decision came down with the order of the president having absolute immunity. Now, Joe Biden didn't use that, but I knew as soon as Trump came in, he would. So any decisions that Trump makes as of now, it doesn't matter what the courts say, he doesn't have to abide by them. And when you think about it, Canada does not have as many checks and balances as the United States. The United States has the courts, the United States has the media, the United States has the House and the Senate. Okay, so it has a lot more checks and balances than we do. We just have parliaments. And what Pierre Poilievre is proposing in his policy declaration is to completely gut and reform Canada into an authoritarian government. No one's going to stop him. He's going to replace, and he's already floated this idea that the politicians are the ones that dictate the law and the interpretation of the law, thereby eliminating judges. So he's already said what he's going to do, and he's going to use the notwithstanding clause. So everybody, all marginalized people, First Nations, LGBTQ plus community, we're all in danger if he comes in. Luckily, he's slipping in the polls, but I don't believe it until I see it. And even if he does go away, even if he does lose, he's not going away. So whatever work that we're doing now has to continue. Canada has to change a lot of laws if Mark Carney comes in, because what's going to happen? He's already told the idea of not believing the polls and trying to sow doubt in our election. So 4 years time, he's going to come back, and he's going to come back with vengeance. So whatever work we're doing has to continue. That's one point. The second point is, if this new government comes in, they're going to have to enact laws that govern social media. They're going to have to enact laws to protect Parliament and our democracy from Pierre Poilievre if he comes in, namely getting rid of that notwithstanding clause.
So I understand that the notwithstanding clause, though, is constitutional. And when Pierre Elliott Trudeau was working on the Constitution with the premiers and his ministers, this was something that they agreed to for the premiers, is what I heard. I got to look back into that, but it was the premiers who requested that this clause be added, and or they weren't going to agree to the Constitution. Just like Lougheed he's the one who made our rights, the Section 35 rights, current rights. Couldn't be our historic rights. It's current rights, which
With the
is very,
new with the new situation and the new climate of our political climate, I wonder if they can amend the Constitution to limit only to premiers, because he's planning on using it because it is in the Constitution and it is a gray area, and he can probably use it to pass legislations that violate human rights.
yeah.
Um, I'm just curious. I'm hoping there has to be severe laws coming down to protect democracy in Canada, and that needs to be addressed in that withstanding clause. I mean, they can amend it.
Well, you
Can
did.
I answer?
Sure, go ahead, because I just wanted to
Okay.
think opening the Constitution is really hard.
I know.
Anyways, go ahead.
What's our alternative? Getting rid of all of it if Pierre Poilievre comes in?
Yeah, I don't know, but let's see what Zibby has to say.
Okay, I'm gonna try to quote my notes from my memory as much as I could over the notwithstanding clause. Now, I'm pretty sure there was only 2 times that it's been tried to be attempted, and they were over gay rights,
Okay.
right? Because crime is a social construct, blah 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 blah, social construct. Now, normally, all of our judicial things go through what we call a precedent. And I know Kelvin knows a lot about this stuff. So if I'm saying things you already know, I'm very sorry.
No, it's okay.
So we have to have precedent in order for it to block it type thing. And that's where it gets scary, because we rely on precedent to go back in how we interpret law. And that's really what we have to be, I guess, lobbying for, is actually to have the notwithstanding clause actually be understood in common English, not legal English, because these are 2 different things, because it's much more technical in legal English. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm trying.
I know what you're kind of alluding at. There's usually precedents in every court case, in every court decision, but you have to understand that this guy doesn't care about precedents. How you pronounce that? He is going to use it. If there's a gray area to it, he's going to use, just like Donald Trump is using it, and he's just going to push his way. Let's be damned with him. He is going to use it to his full advantage. Before we realize it, we'd be screwed. So that's why I'm saying, instead of a reaction, much as what like the United States is doing right now, they're reacting to Donald Trump. We have to have more of a proactive approach and prevent abuses from actually ever taking place. Spell it clear in black and white what it can and can't be used with.
Yeah. How do we do that?
I know Pierre Poilievre, you give him an inch, he's going to take a mile.
Yeah.
How do we do that? I mean, more smarter people like MPs and legislators are going to have to tackle that. It's going to have to be discussed in Parliament, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So looking up online, like I was just looking in the Canadian Encyclopedia, only the provinces have ever used it, the notwithstanding clause. The feds have never used it yet.
But but does it say the feds can't
Oh, they
use
can.
it?
Yeah, they can. And
you
it's
go.
supposed to be known as, it says here, it is known colloquially as the nuclear option because its use is considered extremely severe. And like a couple things that I did see was like against gay rights, and there was something about a Catholic church that Scott Wall did in Saskatchewan. And I think even the premier of Quebec may have used it about the religious icon, about Muslim women wearing the head, right? And that kind of, I think it was used then as well. But it's very scary.
It's not difficult to get around using it as an emergency. Look at what Donald Trump did in the United States. He enacted oh God, that Aliens Insurrection Act. And in order
Yes.
to enact that legislation to give him wartime authorities, he has to declare a national emergency. And what did he do? He used the border crisis, which there is no crisis, as a national emergency. And this is the exact same thing Pierre Poilievre is going to do. He's going to declare a national emergency with all the immigrants in here that will give him rights to use the notwithstanding clause, and he will stretch it to his full advantage.
Absolutely.
See,
And
there's ways around it.
and if you read the policy papers, thank you for the gifts, on the Conservative Party of Canada website, so their policy declaration. I'm a little bit concerned about the wording that they use around the constitutionality of Indigenous rights and how they want the Constitution to reflect all people's rights, and there should be nobody above or below anyone else. And it's not that our rights, because they're enshrined in Constitution, doesn't mean that we're above others. We just have separate, distinct rights as the first peoples of these lands. And that shouldn't be a problem. Now I want cake. Thanks for the cake. So anyways, we are getting to 10 minutes to the hour. Go ahead, Calvin. Yep, please go ahead.
If you read between the lines of that statement,
Yep.
he's talking about getting rid of all of our rights and making us regular Canadians.
Yep. Absolutely. I'm going to pull it up here. I'm going to pull it up so we can read it together. So their policy declaration, we're 112 on the list. Because, you know, shows you how important we are.
Before you start, wasn't John A. Macdonald the architect of complete genocide of our people?
That was his plan.
Okay, he tried to commit genocide through force. Pierre Poilievre is trying to commit genocide through policy.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Damn.
Yeah. So this is it's item number 116 in the Conservative Party of Canada's policy declaration. And it reads, the title is Respecting the Canadian Constitutional Framework. And they say, we are a nation governed by the Constitution Act, under which the rights of all citizens are protected and advanced by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Our future together as a country must be built upon the universal application of that framework. All Indigenous rights recognized under Section 35 of the Constitution Act must be conferred within the four square corners of the Constitution Act and the Charter, with full protection for equality rights, such as women's rights, for both Indigenous and non-Indigenous Canadians. Future Indigenous legislation, policies, and programs must balance the collective rights of Indigenous Canadians under Section 35 of the Constitution Act with the individual equality rights enshrined in the Charter, which protect all Canadians, whether Indigenous or non-Indigenous. Indigenous Canadians are entitled to the full benefits of Canadian citizenship and the full protection of the Charter in areas such as economic opportunity, the delivery of health services, community safety, women's rights, respect for the rule of law, and the education and protection of children. Canada must develop in a manner that ensures constitutional equality and workability. That word workability, because it is it is Section 35 of the Constitution Act of Canada that gives the duty to consult, right? That is the reason why governments must consult with us before they make decisions that may adversely impact our rights. So this, to me, it sounds like we don't get special recognition of rights any longer if he has it his way. And it's going to be just straight up equality across the board for all Canadians. Excuse me, not that that's a bad thing, but the workability, what the hell does that mean? Why is that in a policy? What that's not defined anywhere. Like, what does that concept mean to the Conservative Party?
Can you repeat that line again, please?
Yeah. Okay, so it's the final. I'm going to read the last two sentences because I think they really kind of go together. And it's the first one is long. Excuse me. Future Indigenous legislation, policies, and programs must balance the collective rights of Indigenous Canadians under Section 35 with the individual equality rights enshrined in the Charter, which protect all Canadians, whether Indigenous or non-Indigenous. Okay, so Indigenous Canadians are entitled to the full benefits of Canadian citizenship and the full protection of the Charter in areas such as economic opportunity, the delivery of health services, community safety, women's rights, respect for the rule of law, and the education and protection of children. Canada must develop in a manner that ensures constitutional equality and workability.
Okay.
Okay.
That first section there. Oh God, I had it in my head.
Okay. Can
Oh,
I?
that first section there. He's saying, okay, there's our rights, but they have to balance that of everyone else's rights. So again, he's talking about eliminating our rights and putting us in equal footing, such as hiring preferences. Okay, so go ahead, Tika.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Ziggy.
First of all, even without, okay, you remove our treaty rights, we're still not going to have equality.
Yeah,
That's not how that works.
exactly.
Like, I swear every time this man opens up his mouth, he becomes more stupid to me because I'm sitting here like, if you could have equality without treaty rights, then why is every other demographic of people also struggling with racial, like systemic racism? And workability, that goes back to his comment that we need to learn the value of a hard day's work. I swear to God.
That's where I'm leaning as what he's saying, that
Yeah.
workability.
Which,
Well, he hasn't worked a day in his life.
Right? I feel like too, though, it means that policy needs to be workable, right? And it needs to be, it's that red tape thing. I feel like there's something a little more to it.
This is a further evidence. This section right there is further evidence that he wants to get rid of the Constitution and recreate a Constitution.
Yes.
Based on.
Yes.
Can I ask a question really quick?
Good thing, Jazzy. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much for letting me in. Is it possible? Do you have their constitution there and read section 7, free vote?
Section 7?
I'm pretty familiar with it, but I want to see if it has any reference to Aboriginal rights, because that's a massive loophole that they've opened for discrimination against marginalized groups based on religion.
So
I'm curious now.
And it's going to be fully taken advantage of. Section 7, free vote in the Constitution, but it's got to be the 2023 version.
Oh, this is section 10 that I'm looking at, and it says free votes.
Okay, read that. That's the one.
Okay. All right, let me go back to it real quick. Okay, free votes.
Calvin.
The Conservative Party believes in restoring democratic accountability into the House of Commons by allowing free votes. All votes should be free except for the budget, main estimates, and core government initiatives. On issues of moral conscience, such as abortion, the definition of marriage, and euthanasia, the Conservative Party acknowledges the diversity of deeply held personal convictions among individual party members and the right of members of parliament to adopt positions in consultation with their constituents and to vote freely. So that means that members of parliament can vote freely? Is that what this is?
I did a TikTok on it not too long ago. See, Pierre Poilievre has always been against women's rights right from the get-go since he was in Parliament in 2004.
And gay rights.
And against gay rights. So back in 2000, I believe he switched his stance from being anti-choice to being pro-choice on paper and in public.
But everything underneath him. And
But exactly. Right. So he is putting it on paper, making it look pretty. Oh, I'm not going to touch women's rights. I'm telling you right now, my party won't touch women's rights. But he's leaving a back door open for each individual person within his party to bring up a vote on or bring up a bill on legislation to restrict women's rights. So
and say it's because I'm religious when they probably never went to church a day in their life.
Yeah, so everything in their party, every single aspect of their party is controlled. If they go against their party, they're kicked out of the party. So why is it this one section is allowing a free vote? It's because he's planning on passing legislation to restrict women's rights, and he's making it fancy. So people don't understand, people will just take it at face value. I'm not going to do it. He told me, he said he's not going to do it. Yeah, he said it, but he put it in paper that there's a back door for us to do it.
Have you seen the TikTok that's going around? There's a post going around where someone asks him directly about how he feels about DEI, and he calls it garbage.
Yeah, I saw that, a little post.
That's just recent. That's recent too.
Yeah, I saw it. I just briefly. DEI, he is such a...
Oh, God.
But we don't call it, we have an DEIA here, accessibility in Canada. But still.
Dang,
if these people want to be American, why don't we just ship them to America and just be done with them? Like,
right? There was, I saw a video like quite a while ago. It was actually about a trade system, like the hockey. We'll trade a Danielle Smith for Bernie Sanders.
Oh, please, and AOC, bring AOC.
Yeah, right.
Oh no, AOC for Danielle, and then Bernie for PP.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Jasmine Crockett and AOC are my
I don't know. I love
crush Wednesdays.
Pete Buttigieg is pretty good too, though. He's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you, Jazzy, for pointing this section out. I haven't read.
There's another section as well. I just don't know. I think it's a little bit below it.
What's it called?
It's basically it's the same thing. It's giving people the right to, if someone's gay, you can deny them an apartment if it's your belief. But it's in there somewhere. There's so many loopholes in those two statements. If I got out of this TikTok right now, the live, I have pictures of them because I post them underneath every single Facebook post I see.
I have the document here. Is it the policy declaration or Constitution?
Constitution. Because that's going to override everything.
Okay, whatever I'm in the policy declaration. So
whatever he talks about on Wednesday and Thursday night.
Which section?
Because
I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, 1 second. I'm going to.
That's scary, though, man. Knowing that not only will I lose my rights as a native, but also lose my freaking rights as a woman. God damn.
It's a double whammy.
It's a double smack in the face, man. Holy crap.
You know what? I gotta lighten this because I'll go crazy if I don't lighten this. Why, if you don't like women or other people of color, why can't you just go live in America? Like, for real.
Right.
Why are you bothering to get married? Why are you trying to have kids if you don't like all people?
I've heard from some of those folks that are really pro 51st state, especially here in Alberta. The reason they don't leave Canada is because they have criminal records and they can't cross the border. So,
oh my God.
Of course. Okay, so I've pulled up the Constitution now. I have yet to read the Constitution. I never really wanted to spend this much time diving into conservative policy, but it's really important that we do. So
Look up another one is Section 78. I think that's where he's going to privatize healthcare.
Okay, and that's in their policy declaration, I think, though, right?
And then
Yeah.
78 healthcare, yeah. Okay. And you know, I look at these policy documents, and they certainly, like, it's 3 pages is the Indigenous piece. This health piece isn't that long either. Like, they really don't do much deep dive because, you know, they wouldn't want to put, the more detail you put, the harder it is to backtrack and to leave doors open and things. So, healthcare.
A lot of the substance of the document is a lot of words that mean nothing.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of jumbled up gibberish. But
and then
in a paragraph, there'll be one line that is actually of substance.
Section 5, when I read it, to me, that's Elon Musk. That's an Elon Musk program. I could be interpreting it wrong.
Section 5.
Mm-hmm. I think it's section.
Government waste duplicate. Yeah, that is.
Yeah,
and that's it's a way to gut the entire system.
And gut people.
And gut people, yes. So when Pierre Poilievre does seize control, there'll be nobody to stop him. And it's the exact same thing happened in the States.
I don't think the amount of knowledge I have gained on here, like Calvin, I've seen you and heard you on many lives the last month, and I'm on JB's live every night. Like, I learned so much, and you guys. I didn't know any of this existed. Like, when I read I have a marginalized child that I need to be looking after their rights.
Here's our next goal, though. When we get Carney in, we all need to focus on getting that PP out of government for good. I
think Doug Ford's going to do that for us.
Because he needs to go, because he is going to fight tooth and nail to get whatever he wants passed again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The policy declaration, the conservative policy, it's a 2025 plan. What the Americans did in the United States, it's just packaged in better, fluffy worded. But I have a lot of experience with negotiating contracts and legal language. So that's when I first read the document, it just raised red flags, like big time. I was like, what the F?
Yeah. All I thought was loophole. Like, all you have to say, that's against my religion.
Anybody that wants to vote for this just blows my mind. Like, and this government duplication and waste.
I don't think they know this level of detail, which is what's scary.
Absolutely, they don't.
No, they don't.
And they don't value public service.
Yeah.
Like, to me, we all talk about how we're going to change this and how we're going to fix this going forward. I think this is like a very novel idea that will probably never happen. Like, my children take social studies. Why don't they learn about each party's constitution in school?
This is a very good point. Why isn't the media talking about the policy declaration and its eerie similarities to Project 2025 in the state? Why isn't CBC talking about it?
Why do you think Rachel got taken off CTV? She knows all of this. I've heard her reference the posts, reference them. Like, and I mean, like I said, I've posted them under Facebook posts of every conservative in my province, and they're taken down, and I'm blocked instantly because they will make a statement on how they're pro-life and or pro-choice, sorry. And I put those 2 statements underneath. But the people that I know do not even know what they are. They're like, "What are you posting?" I'm like, "That's the Constitution of the Conservative Party." And they're like, "They have their own Constitution?" So that's where I think the problem. And I'm honestly, I was so ignorant to all of this until it hit me in the face, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I have someone I have to look after," which is sad that I didn't get involved prior. But people don't know it to that level. And I think, what is wrong with teaching it in school? I would have no issue with my daughter or my son learning about, or my son learning about what the conservatives stand for, what the liberals say. I said, block the Green Party, all of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll stop talking. She has her hand up.
No,
I'm
I
sorry.
agree. I agree with that too. Okay, go ahead, Sibby.
Okay, so we have to do some connecting of the dots to actually, and that's what I'm going to do for a hot second. Okay, so I've talked about how we are resources. As human beings, we are resources for capitalism. Okay, and we all know that there is a racial thing going on, that YT people are dying out as the majority of people in like the Americas and here. Okay, but there is also, Pierre Poilievre keeps going back to crime, and I need you guys to be paying attention to this, because this affects us directly, and we are the overrepresentation in the justice system, right? But he keeps going back to like abortion and the justice system. Abortion and the justice system are unanimously tied together, because you know where crime comes from? Poverty.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? So we also have to be paying attention to when he's talking about crime, which, I mean, sends me into a spiral when he does that, because he's talking out of his ass. He knows nothing about it. But oh no, like when he goes off, I'm like, this man is stupid.
I'm
Anyway.
glad that all parties called him out today on what he said with the notwithstanding clause, but spoke with enough that I hope can get through to people's heads how dangerous that is. When Mark Carney spoke, I was like, okay, that was level-headed enough that hopefully he got through to some people listening. What a slippery slope that is.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, he's talking about the three-strike rule. First Nation people aren't going to stand a chance against the three-strike rule,
Right.
because a lot of the justice system itself is a non-native system. So a lot of our people are tied up in the justice system because it's not fair to them. So over here in Nova Scotia, we have a justice system that incorporates First Nation ideology and the talking circle and the healing circle. So that will probably be entirely gutted, and 3 misdemeanors, our poor people will be sent to prison. And how is he going to imprison all of these people? Well, he's going to take American money. American corporations are going to build private prisons here in Canada. That's how he's going to do it.
The interview he did with his wife, Rachel Gilmore just did a post on a TikTok on her account, who interviewed him, and the links that they have to the U.S. The U.S. I never say the word right. Really rich men. What do you call them?
The oligarchy?
Yes.
Oligarchy.
How the guy who interviewed her owned, and the company that did it, like, she made the link, and I'm like, oh damn, this goes so deep. Like, I think he goes so deep.
We'll have to check it out, but I want to give Pasty Native a chance to add to the conversation.
Yes. Sorry.
No, that's okay. No need to apologize.
Yeah, sorry. I was just getting notes and getting the policy declaration up. I have way too much useless information stuck in my head because doing the research for my show, I might as well use it. So I know somebody brought up the faith-based organization thing and basically allowing discrimination.
Yes.
Section 108, faith-based organization. The Conservative Party supports the right of faith-based organizations to refuse the use of their facilities to individuals or groups holding views which are contrary to their beliefs or standards of faith of the faith-based organization, without fear of harassment or essentially getting penalized in any way, shape, or form for it.
So no more hate groups, basically, can get charged.
and we would be excluded from the definition of disallowed discrimination under the Human Rights Act.
What?
Now, this is I know what this line, what that piece is. It's a bullshit example. He's using like a church. Hello.
We can
Hello?
hear you, but we can't see you. Oh, we can't hear you either if you're talking. Calvin. Okay,
back.
yeah. Say that again one more time, Pasty. So I missed a little bit of what you were saying there. So disallowed. What?
I will go back up to it and read and then there's another part that I want to talk about afterwards.
Okay, and what section are you reading from? I'll follow along.
So it would be 108, faith-based organizations.
Okay.
The Conservative Party supports the right of faith-based organizations to refuse the use of their facilities to individuals or groups holding views which are contrary to the beliefs or standards of the faith-based organization, without fear of any form of backlash, that discrimination based on belief of the faith-based organization to be excluded from the definition of disallowed discrimination under the Human Rights Act.
Yeah. So
Wow.
he's making it possible. It's like what happened in the States. Anybody that were getting they were on trial for discrimination based on, say, gender, like they were being charged on gender discrimination or other forms.
There's one more part
he
to
took them
this
away.
part too.
God, that's
Pardon?
There is another part to this as well, which would touch
God.
a lot on gay rights. So
It's before you continue, I need to say something. That example is okay. So our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, you can't discriminate against people, right? And in certain instances, you can say this person can't use the facilities. It's kind of like anti-segregation laws. It's pretty universal all across Canada. So with him using this faith-based bullshit, he's saying that he wants to allow groups, like for example, churches, to discriminate against people from using their facility. It's just bullshit. So basically, churches, they already have a right to deny somebody the rental space for a hall. It's their business. It's a private business. You can do what you want to do already. So why do you need to enshrine it? So by using that language, he can say, okay, he's trying to slip it under the radar and use that kind of language with faith-based BS to be able to allow other people to discriminate.
It's like,
do you know what I mean?
I'm
Exactly.
reading it
No.
too, like a triple K organization could hide themselves behind a church or other.
Anyone can hide behind a church, and that's what they're doing, and they're doing it all over.
Oh my God.
It's kind of like that. So okay. So you're not allowed to discriminate in Canada, no matter what. Okay, it's built right into the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. But if you open a door up and get your foot in there, then you're allowing others to build off that platform. And that section right there, he's using church and faith-based beliefs in order for you to be allowed to discriminate. And he's using that example. But that is setting a precedent for others to use that as an excuse to discriminate. Then he's going to open up discrimination all across Canada and discriminatory practices.
if he opens this notwithstanding crap he was talking about today and just starts changing all of that,
He
God
can't
dang man,
change.
I can't get beat up again.
He can't change all of that unless he gets rid of the Constitution, which he exactly specifically said. And if you get rid of the Constitution, you get rid of our democracy. This is what I don't understand why people don't see it. All of his policies, all of his constitution, everything that he's saying he's going to do, he cannot do unless it's an authoritarian government.
Yes. I think Pasty still wanted to add some more to the conversation. So.
The second part of it is we support the freedom of religious organizations to refuse to perform unions or allow the use of their facilities for events that are incompatible with their faith and belief.
Who polices this?
That is one of my questions,
Oh.
and this will go directly towards churches, because some churches that have chosen to become safe places to get married, a lot of the congregation is still against it, and if the congregation pushes hard enough, they can have it changed.
Right.
But it's not going to stop at the churches. It's going to spread throughout society.
It will
It's just
even
giving
stop
other people an
us from
excuse.
having our powwows.
Yeah.
Because they, you know what I mean? Like, from what I'm gathering from it, we get together for our powwows, which is our way of respecting the earth. They are going to take those away from us if he comes into power.
Interesting. Yeah. I wouldn't put anything past him, but I do want to be mindful of time. It is 22 after the hour, and I've gone over time, and I haven't had supper. So I want to do, if you guys are okay with it, we're going to do a couple minutes each, some closing remarks. And I do have some bad news for everyone. Again, I'm away on the road next week, so I won't be hosting on Monday. But perhaps somebody wants to be a special host, or, we can talk about that offline. But if anyone is interested, please let me know. Inbox me at my Treaty 6 page, not on Beaver Politics. So let's start off with Pasty Native. You're on the top, so we'll give you a couple minutes for some closing remarks. Anything you want to talk about is fair game.
Main thing is, I want to remind people that advanced voting starts on the 18th. Early voting starts on the 22nd and goes through to the 27th, and then we have election day. Please go out and vote. I do not care who you vote for, but vote. We need everybody out there to vote. Also, for those conservatives that are blindly following PP, please, please, please do fact-checking and research.
That's all we ask.
That might be asking a little too much from them.
I know, but I cannot ask. It's about the only thing I really can do.
We got to keep asking. Yeah, be informed. Vote and be informed.
Yes, and vote in your best interest.
Yes, please. All right, that's good then. On to the next.
Yes, thank you for having me up.
Thanks for coming up. It's always good to see you. Sibby.
I just want to say thank you for creating such a safe space. I consider you to be my auntie because of the fact that you just make me feel that way. I love you.
Thank you. I love you too.
And jumping off of what Pasty Native just said, please go vote. If you are not sure who you're gonna vote for, vote strategically. Check smart voting. Before you go vote, because I was asked about who we're voting for, and that's how I'm voting. How I always vote. Yep. Thank you for having me.
And thank you always for coming and contributing so meaningfully to the conversation, Zibby. I really appreciate your viewpoints, the academia that you share with us too. And it's really so valuable when you come and join the conversation. All of you, I really appreciate everybody and what you contribute. So, and I do love you too, Zibby. Calvin.
You know what? When a First Nation brother or sister is in trouble. Doesn't matter where we are. Doesn't matter if we're in a different country. We all hear the calling, and we all go, and we all stand up, and we all act. And for the first time in my entire life, I've never seen so many First Nation people across Canada stepping up, going out to vote, getting involved in federal elections, becoming content creators, spreading awareness. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that is the biggest contribution that First Nations have made in Canada in federal elections in history. And I guarantee that this election outcome will be dependent on them. And because it's dependent on them, the federal government will now open their eyes and start treating us, well, they're starting to treat us with respect. But this uprising of defending our rights, of defending each other, doesn't matter if you're Ojibwe or Mi'kmaq or Anishinaabe. We're all here together and we're all united, and it'll fast track. It will fast track reconciliation. And I'm proud of every single one of you. And I'm proud of every single one that's listening on here, and encourage others to be content creators. That's all.
Thank you. And, thank you for your content. And, and for how much energy you put into creating content and inspiring our people to participate, to pay attention, to learn, to vote, to be active. It's so important, Calvin. All of the, we've only just known each other in these last months because of this political world we're in, but I'm sure grateful for this circle that we have. And, and I agree with you. It's so nice to see so many Indigenous people involved and participating and fighting. Our ancestors survived so we could have these rights. And it's important that we are participating. So thanks, Calvin.
Yeah.
Crazy I am.
Thank you for having me up tonight. I've got to say, every time I get up here, my heart's filled with love for all of the natives that are coming out here and helping us. And I got to say, like everybody else, go out and vote. I don't care who you vote for, just not the PP man. Because he's going to kill us all, whether we like it or not. He's going to destroy us all. I don't care.
Genocide by policy.
Yeah, so
Right.
go out, vote, and thank you for giving us the freedom to come up and speak. And I love it here. Thank you for all the panel tonight. And you guys have a good night.
Thank you so much. Again, I really appreciate your contribution to the conversation as well. It's so important that we have these connections. And now it's nice to know where you're from, because we do have a connection, and maybe we'll connect later on. Crazy I am. But thank you again for joining us. Jazzy, go ahead. We'll turn it over to you.
Wow. First of all, just thank you for letting me in. I swear every time I go on, I listen. I learn so much on here. It's not even funny. And it's opened my eyes to so many things. The one thing in my life, what I think, my belief is that first and foremost, human rights come first. And after human rights, I have to trust that everything else will follow. So when I vote, I vote with human rights in mind. And I hope everybody else does. Simple. And just trust that the rest, if we elect the right people and put enough of the right people around them, that will work, because we've seen the opposite happening, and it's not pretty.
No, you're right.
And when we vote, we don't just think of ourselves, we think of how it's going to impact others around us. So. That's it. Thank you.
And thank you so much for that. And it's so true. It's that's what I think about too, is human rights. And I also think about the rights of those that don't have voices, the trees, the wildlife, the fish, the birds, and and we're all in this together. We're on this planet together. We share space, and this country wouldn't be Canada without the treaties. It wouldn't be Canada, even with its ugly colonial history, but we're going to grow from that, and we're going to move from that, and we're going to reconcile those ways. But we're not going to do it when we have hateful people working in Ottawa. So again, I want to just, before I close up, I want to thank Real Native. I'm not sure if he's still in the space, for sharing tonight, sharing his dad and his dad's speech with us. And Smarshy also for always putting up the good fight with the folks in the comments. I really appreciate having them up here too. And Curtis as well. He was here briefly. So thank you all for contributing to the conversation. I really enjoy sharing this space with everybody. I too learn all the time and appreciate every one of you. I hope you all have a beautiful evening. Hold your loved ones close, stay safe, and stay deadly, my friends. Take care.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.